So now that we got everything wired up, I've got my River 2 Max, which takes up to 220 watts of solar input. And I have my Delta 2 Max with 2 solar ports that will take up to 60 volts and up to 500 watts of charging. So either one should be able to max out one of those ports on either power station. So we're going to run a few tests. We're going to check the voltage on the car battery to make sure that that's still operating safely. I want to see how accurate the readings are on each app to see if there's any discrepancies between what the battery actually is and what the app says that it is. So yeah, let's get to testing. So the first thing I'll do is go ahead and open the EcoFlow app, because we'll test the EcoFlow first to make sure that that's working. That's plugged into the Delta 2 Max. The alternator charger is on, connected to everything. It's reading my battery voltage at 14.2 volts, and it reads my Delta 2 Max at 77%. So if I just click Start Working, this should start charging. Right now we have it set to 800 watts, so let's see how close we can get to that. So not bad, 719, right in the lower 700 range. Let's go over to the battery and check the multimeter. Right now we're reading pretty much 12.97, almost 13 volts. This is connected to the battery. So 729 watts. So that looks good for this test. Go ahead and stop working. So I've noticed that every time you turn your car on, the Bluetti Charger 1 is always on and set to charging. And so I would like to turn off charging so that every time I turn it on, I want to select when I turn it on and off, or I wish that there was a memory option that just remembers that I had it off before I turn the car off. But I don't know, regardless. So this charging is off. I have it set to 22 volts because the River 2 Max can only take up to 220 watts. And if the Charger 1 is charging at 10 amps, 22 volts, that should give me 220 watts. So let's go ahead and plug it in. The EcoFlow River 2 can also take up to 50 volts, so this should be no problem. All right, so I've got it plugged in. I'm gonna switch to charging. And let's see if it's gonna charge it. There it goes. The app says 230 watts. I'm sure some of that is being lost. Let's see what the EcoFlow app says for the River 2 Max. 218 watts. So yeah, that was working perfectly. 220. Right there, River Max taking in its max 220 watts. The Charger 1 app says 230 watts going out, but I'm sure, again, that's part of the losses in the system, so not bad, works perfectly. All right, so for the next test, we're going to use a Delta Pro 3. I'm doing that because it has a 60 volt, 20 amp solar input on the back, and I know that I can take over 500 watts. So I want to test the real capacity of the Bluetti and make sure that it can indeed output 560 watts. I also have the EcoFlow Alternator charger plugged in just to see if it'll simultaneously charge from the alternator charger. I don't expect it to, but I want to test that as well. So let's start it up and see if it works. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn off charging on the Charger 1. Then I'm going to go ahead and start the car. So now that the car is on, I'm going to change the Charger 1 to the highest it'll go, which is 56 volts. And I'm gonna do that by going to charge voltage, scroll down to custom, and if the pro mode is off, that means that it looks like I can only get to 27 volts. So if the pro mode is on, then I can get to, and after you accept your fate, you can get to 56 volts. So I'll change this to 56 because I know that my device can handle it. Delta Pro can handle up to 60 volts on that port that I have it plugged into. And I'll go ahead and turn it on. So we'll keep an eye on the battery's voltage, still maintains it 14 volts. You can see it start to dip there. Starting to, yeah, that looks good. Stays above 13 volts. 13 volts on the car battery, 56 volt charging, 570, 500 and somewhere between 550 and 580 watts of charging. Let's check what the EcoFlow app says. Under Delta Pro 3 for yeah, anywhere between 500 and 600 or so. It looks like it's what it's bringing in. That's excellent. That's even higher than the rated 560 watts. So that's really great. That really looks good. We'll just let this climb up higher here. And there you go. 560, anywhere between 560 and 600 watts of input from the Bluetti Charger 1. That works fantastic.